There was a time I got back home, I was a little bit tipsy, and I went back home. It was after Isha, and I heard I was waiting outside of his room, and until he said Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and knocked his room. And I knocked at the door, and I said, do you believe your religion is actually the truth? And he looked at me, he was like, of course. And to me, I feel like this guy is so arrogant. I must try to disprove him that your religion is false. So I told him, like, you know what? From today, I'm gonna study about Islam, and I'll prove you that, like kissing the ground 5 times a day is worthless.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Handshake. All right, this is our first podcast. I guess both of us are a little nervous, but that's fine because we can edit it afterward. So let's start by both of us introducing ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, since this video will be on my channel, I guess most of the viewers know me already, so
right.
I'll keep it short. My name is Isa Ma. I'm from China. I studied and worked in Hong Kong. And I was born in a Muslim family, but a lot of people assume that I'm revert just because I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
But I did have a journey of rediscovering Islam, just like many Muslims, I think.
Yeah.
So I started learning like more seriously about Islam in university.
Yeah.
So that's like 2015.
Yeah.
And then that led me to this journey of rediscovering Islam.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a position where I have a YouTube channel and I work in a field that's related to the youth and also related to Islamic education. Well, we got to know each other like a few months ago. Well, you knew me earlier than that because because you were watching some of my videos. But yeah, enough about me. Let's hear something about you, just where you're from and
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Jesse Jew, and I lived in Taiwan for 16 years, and eventually moved to Canada with my parents. And 4 years ago, alhamdulillah. 3 years and 2 months ago, alhamdulillah, I became Muslim, alhamdulillah. And right now what I do is I work in a company that manage the Muslims' wealth and assets for investment in the US stock market. We trade halal Sharia compliant stocks, and we only invest into those companies. And alhamdulillah, life's been great ever since I became Muslim.
All right, I think a lot of people would be interested in how you accepted Islam in the first place, being a Taiwanese. Like, so how did you get in contact with Islam, and what made you accept it?
For me, I think really ever since I was little, I remember a lot of events where there's just time where I talk to this higher power or the highest power here and there. So I would say I was always in a place of agnostic rather than into atheism, but I was never being introduced or getting any knowledge about religion until I came to Canada during pandemic, actually, where I was living in Montreal, studying in Montreal at the time, and everything just shut down overnight, right? So we started seeing people getting depressed. We started seeing people committing suicide over like 3 months of everything's been shut down. You go out on the street 5 p.m. in downtown, you will not see anyone in Montreal. It's like subhanallah. So I eventually moved back to Ottawa and lived with my parents, and I grew up in a much more complicated environment where I rarely live with my parents. So it was not the most comfortable thing to live with my parents. So it was probably about like 2 months after I just rented a room and then decided to live outside. And astaghfirullah, but like I used to like just drinking as my habit and doing this, doing that, so on and so forth. So subhanallah, when I moved into the place outside, like out of my parents' house, I was carrying this, like a carton of beer, right? And I walked inside of the house. I saw a Muslim brother watching the TV, looking at what I have on in my hands. And I look at him, I'm like, why is he looking at the beer for such a long period of time? And you actually know the brother too. His name is Khalid. And I started slowly putting my beer in the fridge, and he walked to me and asking me, what is that? Right? So pretty much ever since then, we sort of developed this like sort of animosity between one and another, because obviously my lifestyle didn't suit his lifestyle, his lifestyle didn't suit my lifestyle, right? And then, but we tried to get along with each other. We tried very hard, and I think over 2 months or 3 months of the time that living with him, because his room used to be right next to my room. So every day I'll hear him praying the Salah, especially obviously the Maghrib and Isha. There was a time I got back home, I was a little bit tipsy, and I went back home. It was after Isha, and I heard I was waiting outside of his room, and until he said Assalamu alaikum alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum alhamdulillah, and knocked his room. And I knocked at his door, and I said, do you believe your religion is actually the truth? And he looked at me, he was like, of course. And to me, that I feel like this guy is so arrogant, I must try to disprove him that your religion is false. So I told him, like, you know what, from today I'm gonna study about Islam, and I'll prove you that, you know, like kissing the ground 5 times a day is worthless.
At this point, you're an atheist.
I was an agnostic.
Okay.
I believe that Islam, I believe like there has to be someone created this whole universe or different of universe and this earth and everything. But I don't believe this individual can be found of who he is through religion.
So you were, let's say, you didn't have any confidence in any organized religion, so to speak. Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay, back to the story. You asked him and you wanted to prove him wrong. Yeah.
I wanted to prove him wrong, and every day we'll talk about, like, you know, I go from like the most basic, like simple questions that you can just easily find, like people attack on Islam, like such as, oh, why did you know, if the Quran came after the Bible, why should we follow the Quran rather than the Bible? And just all these questions. And every single time, Brother Khalid will give me a very constructive answer that I would have something as a scratch to go back and do my own research. And during the pandemic time, there was no jobs. I didn't go to school at the time. There was nothing else to do. So I was studying Islam full time for about 3-4 months.
MashaAllah.
SubhanAllah. Yeah. And I think it was about after 4 months of living with him, and Khalid actually gave me your YouTube channel, and I started looking into the 十种系列, and I finished all of it. And I think that was when the fitra really has been awakening, right? Because I was also able to see, okay, Islam is not just about for a particular nation. It's not like Judaism, right? It's for humanity, actually. So yeah, and I started looking into things, and then there was a day, one of the usual days, Khalid would just, you know, besides my bed before I sleep, he will talk about the story of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I got to the point where I was just like, there's no more questions. Everything I've asked, maybe about 2,000 questions before I became Muslim, and everything I was totally convinced, right? Especially about how, like, about the Tawheed and about the story of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how Islam's teachings can be implemented and work perfectly 2,000 years ago and in present, and I can also see they can work perfectly 2,000 years later. So
yeah, there are a few benefits I took from that story. One is, you know, sometimes when we encounter non-Muslims who have that attitude of yours in the beginning, we automatically label them as Islamophobes. You know, these people are trying to attack Islam. They're asking these questions to, let's say, they're asking these questions just to, what's the word? to show their hostility towards Islam. But in fact, they may be sincere in asking these questions. They want answers, and once they find answers, they may actually be convinced, and they may actually gradually, get closer to having conviction. So I guess that's really a wake-up call to all the Muslims, which is when you have people around you who are asking questions about Islam, even in a way that sounded a little bit offensive, you should have patience and answer their questions. And you never know, maybe after you answer 200 500 questions, he's convinced, no more questions, just like you said.
Of course.
And another benefit I can take is you said that the series Shi Yu Zhong, the beginning and the end, and by the way, we're going to have a Chinese session as well. So for the English speakers, if you want to share this to your Chinese friends, share the Chinese version as well. We're going to talk about this. So, but that series, Shi Yu Zhong, the beginning and the end, is actually translated by a team of, I believe, sisters in China. They translated the series by Dr. Omar Suleiman on Yaqeen Institute. And of course, that series, he also based on the book of Ibn Kathir, Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, the beginning and the end, a very important book in Islamic history. So he made that series in English, and this group of sisters in China, translated this series in Chinese. And I contacted them, or I don't remember, maybe they contacted me, either way, because I used to record some audio sharings for the Chinese audience. So either they said, would you be willing to record, just basically based on our script, read it and expand a little bit, or maybe I contacted them. I said, I can use your script and develop from there. Anyway, so we started working on this, and I don't think they would have ever imagined that this translation one day would benefit a Taiwanese person living in Canada and eventually, contributing to his Islam. So that's really amazing. A lot of the things we do nowadays, people look for immediate results, right? You upload a video and after 2 days you want like 1 million views. But in Islam, like sometimes the fruits of your work are not seen until after you die, maybe. Some scholars, they were not recognized when they were alive. Sometimes their works were not widely read when they were alive.
Indeed.
But Islam teaches us that if you do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will never be wasted. Inna Allah la yudi'u ajra al-muhsinin. If you do something that is good, that is evidence-based, that is beneficial to people, and that is for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will never be wasted. There's always fruit. So this really, showed me that you never know who's watching. You never know who can benefit. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this good work of believers to guide whoever He wishes. Right? So that actually makes me very grateful. And I'm going to pass this news on to those sisters who translated the series as well. I think they'll be very happy. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward them, right? Because they also contributed to your conversion. Okay, so that's a story about how you accepted Islam.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then, so after you accepted Islam, like, what are some of the struggles in life, or what are some of the benefits or impacts that you've seen in your life?
I think it's just life in general, because especially before I became Muslim, right? Like, we have, like, the moral standards is really based on what the society you're living in, right? For example, you can go to places where they don't know what is anything outside of two genders, right? And you have places where people are, like places in the West. And for me, like, I just become more not much of a confusion. If there's a problem in my life, right, I look into Islam, okay, this is what it says, I follow that, halas, right? Unless it's something that perhaps could be a little complicated in terms of the situation, then I might have to, actually, it's always best to consult with the sheikh, but then I'll probably book an appointment with the sheikh and be like, okay, this is my situation, what do I do? And subhanallah, alhamdulillah, in terms of the city we're living in, right, people are like, we have a lot of organizations that's very caring the reverts. So alhamdulillah, as soon as I reverted, I had a lot of sources, alhamdulillah, to further develop my Islamic knowledge, alhamdulillah.
I guess that's what led you to this firmness in iman. So some reverts, after they accept Islam, they feel a sense of complacency, like, okay, I have said my shahada, I am on my way towards salvation. Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever ever said la ilaha illallah eventually will enter paradise. So maybe they lean on that.
Yeah.
Or they feel like, since I'm not born in a Muslim family, I don't have that foundation. I didn't start with Islamic education. It will be too hard for me to learn, or too hard for me to reach a level of practicing, that they see in other people. Yeah. But so what I see in you is that drive to always be better. So you didn't stop after you reverted, and you said, okay, I need to understand everything as much as possible.
Of course.
And I need to learn. I need to ask people of knowledge.
Of course.
So that's something I think reverts can learn from.
I mean, think about it, right? Like, if Islam is the truth and the Quran is the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the fact that if you're getting more knowledge of your creator and what he wants from you, it's not just going to be benefiting your akhirah. It's also going to be benefiting your dunya. If you, I've heard the Sheikh Muhammad Tim Humble, where he once said, like, sins, like, we all make sins, but there's a difference from the people who have taqwa and they make sins and then they make tawbah, and the one who doesn't, right? So sins at the end of the day will transgress against ourselves. So it's good to know, like, the things. For example, I used to drink, right? But for me, when I heard about Islam, like, drinking is forbidden, right? Maybe we all know these days it's not good for us, but I have a better conviction. When I see the alcohol in front of me, I have a better reasoning to say why I shouldn't drink, because it's an order from the Most High. So, yeah.
After you accepted Islam, like, what's the reaction of your families?
So, subhanAllah, I actually got to talk to the Sheikh, same Sheikh actually, Sheikh Muhammad Tim Humble, who reverted to Islam when he was 14. Actually, alhamdulillah, I got a chance to have a dinner with him. That was my first year of my reversion. And it was very bothering me, because I know my parents, they're not very, obviously, they don't know anything about Islam besides from the media. So, but at the same time, Islam, it's a lifestyle too, right? So if I live with them, they have to notice something is different. So the Sheikh actually suggested that I don't have to tell them right away. And the reason why was because, maybe they will start asking me a lot of questions, but I'm not ready to answer them since I don't have the answer. Or even worse, I might give them the answer that's outside of my knowledge, right?
That's a good point, yeah. That's a good point.
So, subhanAllah, my mother just got to know 2 days ago that I'm a Muslim.
2 days ago from now.
2 days ago from now, that's what we're recording.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. And today, alhamdulillah.
But it's been how many years since you reverted?
It's been 3 years and 2 months.
It's been 3 years, and she just got to know 2 days ago.
She just got to know 2 days ago. SubhanAllah. So yeah, it was a bit struggle, but alhamdulillah, now my mom is very accepting, SubhanAllah, which I was not expecting that. And this morning, before I came out, I actually found a Chinese copy of the Quran on my mother's table. So, inshallah, big dua for my mother.
Allah guide her and all your families. How about, do you have any other relatives in Ottawa or back home?
So, I actually have a cousin that actually took the Shahada after I became Muslim last year, May. Yeah. And also, I gave him the Suzong. He was a Christian, so it was, in terms of that God can be found through religion, it was easier for him to have that.
Right. Okay. You did live in Taiwan for some years when you were a teenager, I guess. Yeah. So if you compare the Taiwanese culture to Islam, like, what would you say? Like, is it easy for Taiwanese people to accept Islam, or if it's not, then what's the obstacle? What's the hardship here?
I believe that not just from people from Taiwan. I believe Huaran, like the Chinese people in general, if we have a fair access to the knowledge of Islam, I believe because our nation, we have a lot of good people. This is what I believe, and I've experienced it. Right, in Taiwan, I don't know, in China, I've only been to a few places in China, but like in Taiwan, if you have a foreigner, if you have a sister wearing hijab in Taipei, for example, or even South Taiwan, if they're lost, they ask any local people from Taiwan, they would probably just, hop on my car and then drive you to wherever you need to go. Like, like Taiwan people, And I believe Chinese people in general, a lot of us still have a very good, clean, the fitra, the inner goodness from Allah. Yeah. So yes, but lifestyle, yes, it's not very. I don't see a lot of correlation, to be honest. And most people in Taiwan are still polytheism or just atheist. And the religion, they are Christians, but I would say they're pretty secular. They will have going to the church on Sundays, and then they'll worship Buddhas on Tuesdays. So.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, as you said, a lot of Chinese people, their understanding of religion is that it's a way to increase my fortune. It's a way to increase my material success, right? Through gaining the pleasure of whatever deity they're worshiping, they want to have more in this life. Whereas if you look at Islam, it puts emphasis on the hereafter, the akhirah. It teaches people that the dunya is a means and not the end. It is a place where you sow the seeds and you put in the work and you get your results in the hereafter. Exactly. So I guess that's where there's a difference, and that's something we need to convey to the people. So you have that duty now. You need to convey Islam to the Taiwanese people.
Sure.
Because I remember once I was in San Francisco. I was traveling and I passed by this small masjid. The imam is like a Bangladeshi American, and he saw me and he's curious. Maybe it's not common for them to say Asian Muslims. So he stopped me, he gave me tea, and we sat down. He said, "Where are you from, brother?" I said, "I'm from China." And he said, "You have a heavy duty upon your shoulder." And this is maybe 1 year after I started practicing Islam. And I said, "Okay, what duty?" And he said, "Okay, you see 1.3 billion Chinese people, right? Very hardworking, friendly, kind, nice people.
Exactly.
And they don't even know about the akhirah. They don't know about the hereafter." And he said, "That's your duty." And so that word really stuck with me. And I know as an individual I have limited capacity, but I need to do something. I need to start doing something. So later on, I started this WeChat official account called Shanjing. And later on I started this YouTube channel. And I'm not really into looking at the numbers and statistics, but I believe you proved that even if you do a little bit, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, He will take it to benefit someone. So I'm just passing on this message to you now. You have a duty upon you, right? All the Chinese speaking people in the world, I think there's something we can do for them out of this compassion and care, because we know that Islam is a beautiful religion. We know that Islam gives people success in both worlds, and we want success for humanity, right? Kuntum khayra ummati ukhrijat linnas. Allah said, "You are the best nation extracted for humanity." So we want good things for humanity, and so that's why I'm imparting this sense of responsibility. Everyone in the world.
I would try. Yeah, everyone in the world.
We should try to something. We should try to do something to benefit them and to call them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So this brother Khalid, maybe we'll invite him for another episode of the podcast if he's up for it. But after you accept Islam, he's basically the main guy who led you to Islam, right?
100%, yeah.
By the permission of Allah. So what's your relationship with him like after you accepted Islam?
Best friend ever.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah, everything for after I became Muslim, we lived with each other for another year and a half or almost 2 years, and I think it's very important. I think that really played a big role in terms of how I made myself become a bit more practicing, rather than living by myself. Because for me, for example, how to read Surah Al-Fatiha. It's good to have companionship, right? Yeah. Isn't that also mentioned in the Sunnah, to have great people around us? So our relationship has been great. Anything that I needed help, I talked to him first, and subhanallah, I really thank Allah that Allah sent a brother like him, because he's really up for it. Whenever it comes to religious matter, he's really up for it to help me until it's resolved. So alhamdulillah.
I think this is very important. Me also, when I was in university, when I first started practicing Islam, alhamdulillah, there were some very good brothers around me, and I stuck myself to them. Whenever I have questions, I ask them. Some Pakistani brothers, beautiful character, knowledgeable, patient, forbearant, and all of these good qualities further increased my love for Islam, right? When you see Islam manifested in people, when you see the beauty of Islam demonstrated in people, that attracts you even more. So I guess, from here we can take the advice to all Muslims that like we need to be good role models, because people are watching us, and people are getting to know Islam through us, and also for us to stick to good people. So Allah Azza wa Jalla said, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'a sadiqin." O you who have believed, be conscious of Allah and be with those truthful people. But the truthful people is not only people who speak the truth. In other places, Allah Azza wa Jalla describes "Ulaika humus sadiqun." There are ayat that talk about who are the truthful people. He said, for example, in Surah Al-Hujurat, the truthful people are those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and they never doubt. They are firm on their belief, and they strive with their money and their life in the path of Allah. Those are the truthful people. So truthfulness in Islam is not only about words, it's not only about honesty, it's about what you do. Like you prove that you're truthful to Allah and to this religion by what you do. So those are people we should stay with, and obviously Khalid is that person for you. And once you gain knowledge, once you become a practicing Muslim, you should also be that someone for someone else,
inshallah,
right? Okay. So wow, that's quite an interesting story. So whenever people watch videos of revert stories, they're expecting some kind of a miracle or some kind of a very amazing incident that happened. But what I find to be more common among the reverts is that it's not one particular incident that took them to Islam. Maybe there's some memorable day or memorable event, but after all, it's a journey. Right? For you, it's like you said, 2,000 questions, maybe a little bit exaggerated. But a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
And it's the same to me when I first started learning about Islam. It's a series of stages. I'm struggling with this issue for a week and another issue for another week, and then one by one they get resolved, and then your iman is increasing, right?
Exactly.
And then eventually there is a breaking point where, like, one day you just say to yourself, okay, I'm convinced this is the truth. There is that moment, but there's like a whole build up to that moment. So my advice to the people learning about Islam is that don't expect like all of a sudden something happens and it just clicks and you just accept Islam like that. It's a journey. If you're not
there's a process to it.
There's a process. If you're not understanding something, it's okay. Even though we have accepted Islam, I'm pretty sure there are still things in Islam we don't fully understand.
Of course,
we're still trying to understand. We're still learning. So it's a lifelong process. The Quran was revealed over a span of 23 years. So the scholars say, how long do you think it will take for you to understand it then? The revelation took 23 years, right? So that's another benefit we can take from your story. All right, now let's talk about your professional life. You mentioned that you work in the financial industry.
Correct.
And I heard that you mentioned you do Sharia compliant investment. Can you give us more definition of what that means?
Of course. So I mean, like these days, right, I think especially just human in general, like people, we start noticing and being a bit more aware on we should have a level of understanding in terms of the economy and how the companies their future market and future goals, and how do we properly invest, right? Because this is how the money's moving around. So a lot of Muslims that sometimes, because we don't know how to trade, how to make smart investment and halal investment, we just give it to the bank, right? And what ended up happening is that these banks, they started funding all sorts of things without our acknowledgement, because you pretty much already signed, you signed the thing, you agreed them to take the money and trade on your behalf, then that's it, right? But this started to become an issue, really, because we still have great brothers that want to make money from the financial or market, US stock market industry. So I eventually started working with this brother David, and he taught me on how to select, how to trade first of all, and how to select the right stocks that is Sharia compliant, as himself is very, very careful and aware of what he puts the money in. And alhamdulillah, it's been great. It's been great.
So when in the beginning, I was quite against the whole field of economics and finances. I thought that economics is about making money, and that's materialistic, and I don't want to be materialistic. But then later on, there were a few things that led me to a better understanding of economics and finances. One is I actually joined this small company in Hong Kong, a group of brothers doing similar things. We're also trying to promote Sharia compliant investment. So they actually built a website. They built an algorithm to select from the Chinese stock market and the Hong Kong stock market Sharia compliant companies based on the AAOIFI, as you know, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Associations institutions, which is an organization in Kuwait that has a whole protocol and standard for defining and managing these different terms, financial terms. Anyway, so that's one thing. And because of this involvement in the company, I started learning a little bit about Islamic finance. There's a great podcast by Almir Cholen, who is a expert of Islamic finance based in Australia.
Okay.
If you're interested in Islamic finance, you can watch, you can listen to his podcast too. But from that, and also later I read Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, who is an American economist, and he defined economics as the allocation of scarce resources that have alternative uses. And then, so with that definition, a lot of things we do in life are economic in nature. For example, right now we're doing this podcast for, like, say 1 hour, 2 hours. And there are a million other things we can do with these 2 hours. We can lie down at our home and just chill, or we can watch TikTok videos, or we can go to the masjid and read the Quran for 2 hours. There are many different things we can do in these 2 hours. But so time is a scarce resource that have alternative uses, and how you allocate it. That's economics. We're making an economic decision right here.
That's a very interesting point.
Yeah, so from those experiences, it deepened my understanding of economics. And as you said, I feel like it's because Islam is a comprehensive religion, right? It tells believers to, in every aspect of life, act in a way that is conducive, that is contributive to his iman and to his akhirah. So economic activity, since it is so essential and so central in people's life, I think Muslims should have a basic economic sense, so that they make wise decisions, so that they allocate their resources smartly. And as you said, because nowadays, if people don't have the economic sense, then their resources are being used to allocate on their behalf, to be allocated on their behalf.
It could be the enemy of Islam too.
Exactly. So our resources can be allocated to sources that's against us without us knowing. Right. But so now I think a lot of people are beginning to understand this point. They are more aware of this. These terms such as buying power. Such as I'm a customer. I'm a taxpayer. These terms are all becoming, I think, well known, and people are beginning to understand. So, like, share with us more what you've learned from your professional life, like the importance of investing wisely, and what kind of investment do you think is beneficial to us as Muslim individuals and to the Ummah?
So I think if you want to get yourself involved with the U.S. stock market as a Muslim, right, the first thing that you need to do is education. So people have like $5,000, $7,000. They go on YouTube and they start looking on some videos, some videos from the online gurus, and then they start thinking, okay, I can do the exact same thing as what they do, right? And this is not really how it works, because a lot of these, at least the ones that I came across, the videos, they tell you where they bought, where they sold at the time, but they don't really tell you why did they make that decision and where was your point of that, okay, I must get out, right? Because we have to understand something. There's no investment that gives you 100% guaranteed. So what if the thing turns against you? Otherwise, you need to have, we call it the edge, right? To determine, okay, I have to cut the bleed from here. So education is number one. And of course, again, like, for those of you, right, it's very simple. You could simply just go on. There's a website called Muslim Exchange. If you're trading the U.S. stock market, you can look onto it. There's 5 major Sharia institutions. They analyze the U.S. stock market, U.S. companies, what is compliant and what isn't. AOIFI is one of them. And you can see what they're saying. If they say this is haram, why they believe it's haram, right? They will give you the reasons. And maybe you can consult with the sheikh if you really want to be careful of it. I personally did, and I've had like students of mine that learn from me. They're doing the same thing as well. So yeah, education is number one. And if you just don't have time for education, because it should be treated as a course, right? Think about this is a career where you could potentially make more than, you know, engineers, make more than the doctors, but you're expecting to get something out of it in like a matter of 2-3 months of education, right? People see us, we trade in the US stock market, 30 minutes, oh, mashallah, you make $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, your life is easy. But that's not really the case. The 30 minutes that we sit there and make the decisions, that's time and efforts that we put behind that you don't see for the education to make those decisions, right? So education, that's what I would say.
And also I would say, like, from a Muslim standpoint, investment is not only about the capital return. It's not only about getting more money out of it, because when you invest in something, you're literally supporting it to develop further, right?
Yes.
That's the original idea of stock, I guess. You know, like a company has a good idea, or they want to innovate, and they want to produce something beneficial for society, but they don't have the funds or the, you know, material foundation for that. So they ask people for investment, so that they can bring that into reality. And when it does come into reality, it does benefit people, so there will be more return as a natural result. But they didn't intend for the monetary return in the first place, or that's not the whole picture. The whole picture is about bringing benefit. So as a Muslim, I think our investment is also, like, we always have to have that akhiristic mindset. This word I heard from Dr. Kasuli.
Interesting.
He's an African Muslim professor who works in Saudi Arabia. He said he invented this English word from Arabic, right? Akhirah means hereafter. He said we need to have akhiristic thinking.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, meaning like whenever we think about something, you always like ask yourself, what's this impact on my hereafter? How is it going to impact my day of judgment? How will it show on my book of deeds, right? So investment, like, it's not only about getting more money for yourself, it's about what kind of impact through your investment you're making to the society. Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, but if we think about it, right? If you put the money to invest the companies, that's 5 stars. That's every single Sharia compliant companies. They do the analysis. They say these are the good companies, and they're actually eventually growing bigger, right? That's actually a good contribution, because we are actually, by promoting the halal ones, and then the haram ones, they will just start dying down by default, right? So there's that aspect as well. But you mentioned a very good point, mashallah.
No, that's a very good point. So like, I guess in a free market, in a price adjusted market, the consumers, they will decide what will be produced, actually, because what they buy will be what will be produced.
Exactly.
So Muslims should invest in things and services, so goods and services that are in line with Islam, pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beneficial to society.
That's priority.
And as a result, if we keep investing in this way, those are the things that will be produced.
Of course.
Those will be more common.
We have 2 billion Muslims.
And if we divest, which is the opposite of invest, right? If we divest in the things that are haram, in the things that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we stay away from alcohol, like, I mean, there are 1.8 billion, I think maybe 2 billion Muslims in the world. Imagine all of these 2 billion people just categorically, very sternly said no to alcohol. I mean, that's a big hit to the alcohol market. And, you know, it applies to other aspects and industries too. So I guess, you know, investment and participating in economic activity is not only about money, it's about what you value, and through your economic activities you can actually make an impact into what society values, what society provides.
100%.
So yeah, I'm very glad that there are more people now understanding the financial industry, and you are, you know, a leading figure in that regard. I hope
I'll praise Allah.
I hope you keep developing in this field, and you become a big star in this field.
Inshallah.
You'll make a lot of contributions.
Inshallah.
And a lot of money. Why not?
Inshallah.
Right?
I mean, inshallah.
And use that money for good purposes.
Inshallah.
That when you have the financial means, you can use it to benefit a lot of people.
Of course.
So that's why there's a hadith which, when I read it for the first time, I was shocked. The Prophet ﷺ said people are 4 categories, and this is authentic narration. He divided people into 4 categories. He said those that Allah give money and didn't give knowledge. This is one category. The first category is those that Allah give knowledge and it didn't give him money. So knowledgeable but poor. And that's good. You know, he's going to be a obedient servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's going to live in accordance to Islam. But unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to help many other people due to his financial limitation. The second category of people are those who have money and have knowledge. And the Prophet ﷺ said these are the most virtuous people. And I was shocked. Yani having money and knowledge is better than having knowledge only. And the reason for that is when you have knowledge, you know how to spend your money wisely. So you don't only benefit yourself, you also benefit other people. Although both of these two categories are considered successful. So even if you don't have money, not a big problem. As long as you maintain your duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're successful. And then the third category is the people who have, oh, by the way, the Prophet ﷺ also said, أَجْرُهُمَا سَوَاء, their rewards are equal. Because the person who doesn't have the money, he has knowledge, he intends, if I have money, I will spend it in a way that pleases Allah. He will get the reward too. Although the second category of people is better because he actually, in reality, benefits other people. The third category is the people who have money, but no knowledge, right? So he doesn't know how to use money properly. He uses money to satisfy his own desires and to cause corruption and sin in the world, exploitation, harming others, right? No standard, no principle. And the fourth category of people are those who have no money and no knowledge. And this is the worst and most unfortunate people. The Prophet ﷺ said, وِزْرُهُمَا سَوَاء, their sins are equal. Because the fourth category of people, they don't have money, but they said, if I have money, I'm also going to go clubbing. I'm going to buy this car. I'm going to have a bunch of women. So they intend to sin if they have money. So these are the most unfortunate people. So from this we see that, subhanAllah, having money is not a good thing. Having money is not a bad thing if you have knowledge along with it. If you have knowledge and money, then you are actually afdal, the most virtuous of people. So I hope you become one of those people.
Inshallah. I mean, they say money. What they say money. They say money doesn't change the person, but it shows who you are. Right. So this, I believe the risk, like the wealth or whatever that I'm currently possessing is from Allah. So I don't believe this is from me. So I want to sometimes, like, even until today, sometimes I scrolling on the Facebook market, I'll be like, oh, maybe I should get a Porsche, maybe I should get like a fancy car. But then I look back, I'm like, but this money is not from me. So like I'd rather spend the money wisely on things to make attributions for the ummah, because look at the world right now. Like we're not united enough to make changes. And if I'm thinking like this, I must do something and to keep it this way, inshallah. So yeah,
I read a book about the history of Islamic civilization. The author is Dr. Sibai. I forgot the exact title of the book.
I think I know the book.
But he mentioned that during the golden age of Islam, between, let's say, 8th century to 12th century, or maybe even longer than that. During the golden age of Islam, there's this there are awqaf, meaning what's that in English? I forgot. Waqf, in Islam, it means like a kind of fund that is for public interest. Just like for example, when Uthman radiallahu anhu bought the well and said, okay, I give this well to the Muslims, so any Muslim can take water from it. It's a waqf. He give it. It's his private property to start with, but he give it to be shared by the public, and so he will get reward from that. So waqf, it's called. What's it in English? I forgot. Anyway,
I don't know if there's a term for it.
There is.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah. Anyway, so this author, he mentioned that I think in Andalus, there was a time when in hospitals, the Muslim government will spend this waqf money, this public interest money, to hire people, and their job is to pass by patients and say, hey, you look great today, mashallah. I mean, just look at how collectively we were spending money back then. I mean, subhanAllah, there were awqaf for people who passed away and they don't have families. Right? So the government will take care of it. Orphans, the government will take care of it. Because they collect money for public interest. And not for a few individuals. So like if we can again think collectively as a ummah, if we use our financial means in a way that is sustainable, that is long term, that is akhiristic, I think we can make a lot of changes, because to be honest, there are many rich Muslims nowadays, right? And you know that because you do investment, and
I've met a few,
and you meet investors, so you know that we do have a lot of wealthy individuals in the community, but sometimes not all the time, sometimes they are too individualistic in a way. Like they may have good intentions for the ummah, but they're not working together, so to speak. So I guess how to think collectively as a ummah, how to help each other and how to gather our resources to benefit the ummah is something that we have to continue thinking about and working on.
SubhanAllah, we need more people like you for the education, for the people who possess the wealth but doesn't know how to use it properly.
Well, I'm not an expert either, because I don't think too much about how to spend wealth because I don't have it yet.
Inshallah soon, inshallah.
I think there's it's a kind of wisdom to not think too much about things that's not in your reality, right? So I don't have that much buying power yet. I guess if one day if I have it, I'm gonna think about it. But the general principles are not that complicated. Islam tells you the general principles. In the Quran, there are clear ayat about يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ. They ask you about how to spend their money. And Allah give clear answers. There's a sequence, right?
Of course.
قُلْ مَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن خَيْرٍ فَلِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. You spend for your parents and you spend for the close relatives and the orphans and the travelers, etc. So and these are not particular individuals. These are categories of people, or these are sections of society. So Allah Azza wa Jalla actually give us a blueprint for how to spend our money. Anyway, so the financial industry is quite important, I think, for Muslims to be aware of, and I hope you have success in that sector. So I've been asking a lot of questions. Do you have any questions to ask me then?
I mean, I used to have so many questions for you because, subhanAllah, I used to be such a big fan of your works, mashallah. I would say what I would ask is, what do you see, is there any plan that you have that may actually make some attributions for the Chinese Muslim, in terms of knowledge-wise, how do we increase knowledge, right? Because these days we go on YouTube, we go on these sources, that source. Most of the things are either English or Arabic, right? So what's your...
Yeah, well, first of all, there is a lot of knowledge in China among the Chinese Muslims. This is something that people sometimes don't know. So for example, I know the students of knowledge in China. I know some, we call them ahun, the scholars and the shuyukh in China. Some of them, they have studied in Azhar, graduated. Some of them have master's degree from Azhar. Some of them have PhD from Medina University. And these are Chinese Muslims. So in the past, I would say 2 decades or even more, there have been quite a number of knowledgeable people, and now many of them have come back to China and to serve the community. So it's not like a desperate situation.
I guess I'm just from Taiwan. Overseas, I can't really have the access.
Yeah, exactly. So the situation in China, as you know, it's a unique one, because our internet is like a section of the internet, the every major app in the world, we have an equivalent but not the same. Like for example, for YouTube you may have Bilibili, and for Facebook you may have WeChat. WeChat is like a combination of Facebook and Instagram and everything, right? So the thing is, the Chinese Muslims, so they work with what they have. And so they have their own means or ways of sharing knowledge and spreading knowledge. So some traditional ways are still being upheld. For example, learning in the masjid. In every single masjid in my city, for example, almost every single masjid in my city, there are Quran recitation classes. Mostly old people join, but nowadays it's getting younger and younger too. I see young people join, So every day, I think between Maghrib and Isha, for 1 hour or so, the imam will read one sentence and they will read one sentence. A very traditional way, like Alhamdulillah, and they will say Alhamdulillah, so word by word. And so there is knowledge being taught, there is knowledge being learned. But obviously there are challenges and difficulties. There are limitations when it comes to religious content. They're considered sensitive, and sometimes for example, you share an audio file in a WeChat group. This happens to me a lot of times. Like I record, for example, today's podcast, and I share it to the WeChat group. And then after 3 hours or 4 hours, I realize I'm the only one who can see it.
I think
shadow censoring, they call this.
I think your WeChat group was banned at one point, right?
There's a WeChat official account, which is like a channel, like a public channel. At one point it had about close to 60,000 subscribers. So I started in 2018 and it was banned in 2020. or 2021. Yeah. So it ran for maybe 3.5 years. So yeah, it was at one point quite well known. People were benefiting from it, and then it got banned. And so now any kind of public channel will not be allowed to publish religious content because it's considered sensitive. But yeah, people work with what they have. So I don't, our part of our husna adhan, our good assumption of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He will not make the believer's situation desperate. Like there's always an exit, there's always a way out. He said, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever has consciousness of Allah, whoever fears Allah, Allah will make for him an exit. There's always a way out. So there are about 13 million Muslims in China. Allah will not make the situation desperate for them so that there's no way to learn. There's always some way. It will be hard, I guess. It will be different, but I guess there are always ways to learn. So in terms of plan, I feel a lot of work is being done. For example, if you go back 20 years, it's very rare to find a hafiz in China. Memorizing the Quran is not really a thing. So even imams of the masajid, they don't memorize the entire Quran. They memorize maybe juz amma, the last juz of the Quran, or some short surah to lead prayer. But like 20 years ago, it would be very rare to hear someone memorize the entire Quran. But now it's becoming quite common. In my city, there is a masjid that produces about 20 to 30 hufaz every year. Okay, every year there are 30 new hufaz, and they are sent to different cities to lead prayer in Ramadan. So now you find many masajid in China, they do khatmul Quran in 1 month. In Ramadan they finish the entire Quran from beginning to end. So this is happening. There are good things happening. So a lot of people are already working on education. I feel like the Chinese people are very adaptive. This is in our culture, right? I guess we just we never give up. We are quite flexible. So in terms of myself, I feel like, because Allah Azza wa Jalla said, قُلْ كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ, every person should act upon his nature, what has been made easy for him. The Prophet ﷺ said, كُلٌّ مُيَسَّرٌ لِمَا خُلِقَ لَهُ. Things have been made easy for what you are created for. And Allah created you for a particular function. And so that will be made easy for you. Allah will make it easy for you. So like, I think we should analyze ourselves first and see what we're good at. I find myself to be, first of all, interested in seeking knowledge and sharing knowledge. I like reading and writing, and I like speaking. So that's something I want to continue to work on, continue to seek knowledge and memorizing the Quran. Once I visited India, and I visited Sheikh, his name is Kamaluddin, I think, Sheikh Kamaluddin. So I told him, exactly this question you asked me. I said, what should be my plan? Because I told him I want to be like Norma Ali Khan for the Chinese people. I want to influence a lot of Chinese.
You already are, Loki.
Loki, yeah, maybe.
No, you are actually. Like, subhanallah, that's how we got to see your channel. We search about like Islamic teachings about particular things. You're the first one of them that come up.
Oh, the algorithm favored me. Yeah. Anyway, so I was telling him I want to be a Nomali Khan in China. By the way, if you don't know, Nomali Khan is like this very popular public speaker who teaches the Quran and in English. So I want to influence the Chinese Muslims to become more practicing, and maybe also affect more non-Muslims to know about Islam. And then you know what he told me? He said this niyyah is wrong. This niyyah is wrong. Because anyone who seeks knowledge, the primary focus should be benefiting himself, to make himself an obedient servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to protect himself from evil, from wrong actions, and to guarantee that he worships in a correct way, he earned the pleasure of Allah, save himself from hellfire. That's first step. And if you can do that and you have some extra capacity, then whatever can be accomplished is by the mercy of Allah. Don't even aim for it. And that's quite profound.
It is.
I thought about it, and I thought, the scholars in the past, they didn't start their journey thinking that, one day I'll become a big sheikh, one day I'll become a celebrity or an influencer. They started by wanting to be a good Muslim, and that's it. And then later on, if Allah sees sincerity in them, Allah will use them, right? Allah will use them to benefit other people, and that's out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is like in Islamic history, this has always been the case. Like, leadership is forced upon the leaders. They don't want to be leaders, and the scholars are being sought, instead of like, they didn't seek to be scholars. They were, when they have enough knowledge, people keep asking them questions, they have been pushed into a position of issuing fatwa, etc.
Isn't that what happened with Abu Bakr Siddiq?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't want to be, he actually appointed to Umar and Abu Ubaidah, and he told the Muslims, choose one of these two, I'm happy with any of them. But Umar gave bay'ah to him, so they did give bay'ah to him. And so in the khutbah, in his ceremony, in his what is it called, commencement speech, let's say, he said, قَدْ وَلِّيتُ عَلَيْكُمْ, I have been entrusted to have command over you, وَلَسْتُ بِخَيْرِكُمْ, I'm not the best of you. I mean, he's very humble.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And he said, you know, if I, he said, obey me as long as I obey Allah and His Messenger. And if I disobey Allah and His Messenger, there's no duty of obedience upon you, to me. So yeah, I mean, well, I got really far. What were we talking about?
We're talking about leadership being forced upon.
So the advice from Sheikh Kamaluddin is that don't aim to be a scholar, don't aim to be an influencer, aim to be just a good practicing Muslim. And if you are sincere enough, really, like, if you really like contemplate on, you know, cause and effect, I find there's nothing that brings goodness as much as ikhlas, sincerity. In every single action, if you are sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, good things happen. Good things you cannot imagine, you cannot expect. Things that you need will be given to you without you asking, if you're sincere enough. And if you do things for the sake of Allah without asking for recognition or praise or reward, Allah will reward you more than any reward people can give you. I mean, just observe your own life. Just look at your own experience. So in the masjid that I work at, there are a lot of volunteers and young people. They come and they teach children, or they coach basketball. They do their work and they disappear. They don't wait for people to recognize them. They don't come and say, I did this and that. I spent this much time in the masjid. And you see the reward that they receive. They are just positive people, light in their face, consistent with prayer, filled with you know, all of the good qualities. So yeah, I guess my future plan is to put simply, keep developing myself, keep working on myself, and then in that process, whatever opportunity is presented to me where I can you know, contribute, then I will do my best. So I guess I prefer to work in the knowledge field. Learn knowledge, share knowledge. I'm not an expert in the financial industry, unfortunately. I'm not good at money.
We need people like you. We need people like you more than needing people like myself. Like,
there's a need for every section of society. We need good people everywhere, right? So we're like a football team. This is there's a Malaysian da'i. His name is Firdaus Walm. He told me, like, the Muslim Ummah should be like a football team. And so what does that mean? Is that, you know, in a football team there are strikers, there are defenders, there are the midfielders, and goalkeeper. And a good, healthy football team, everyone understands everyone is needed. No one is redundant in this team. And everyone understands everyone is important. So, and also they shouldn't complain about each other's different function. For example, the striker shouldn't say to the defender, why didn't you go? Why didn't you score? That's not his job. And the defender shouldn't say to the striker, why didn't you stop him from scoring? That's not his job. So we should respect each other's position and work together as a team for the win, right?
Of course.
So that's quite long, actually, not brief at all, quite long answer.
Yeah, but mashallah, because, man, I just wanted to say, like, I know the Chinese community, the Chinese Muslim community here, when they see you, they like, subhanallah, mashallah, they like seeing the future of the Chinese Muslim. Like, you know, we really need people like you, especially right now. Mashallah, Allah Mubarak. Thank you for the great work.
Okay, I guess we are about to close the English session. I'm gonna ask you, like, to speak to the camera.
Okay.
Imagine, like, there are Taiwanese people watching this for sure, because I'm gonna put that in the title.
Inshallah.
And there are, generally speaking, all of the world Chinese speaking audience watching this. Well, they will watch the Chinese version too, but let's say bilingual speakers who speak Chinese and English. And people who are interested in Chinese culture, maybe. So there are non-Muslims who are interested in Islam, and they heard your story, and they're like, okay, maybe there is something in Islam I don't know about, and they are thinking about maybe I should learn about Islam as well, but they're hesitant. They're like, I also hear so many negative things about Islam in the media, and it's so different from our modern society, right? And it's so different from my own culture. So what's your advice to them to take this step?
do I say it in front of the camera with Chinese or English?
English.
English?
We're
Okay.
Have
So
the Chinese session soon.
okay, inshallah.
Look at that camera, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, so I mean, guys, think about this, right? When we are looking for jobs or make any decision in life, right? We look at things with objectivity, right? So we say, okay, you know what? To say for the example of job, right? We look at the job, we see, okay, how many hours do I work? How much am I gonna get paid for the salary? Okay, this is 40 hours. They pay 30,000, for example, per year. This one is less hours, but I'm getting paid even more. Then you will select the best. What is the best for you? So I think the first thing that I would advise is, you know, it won't hurt you by you doing that. You just say, God, if there isn't, it's not going to hurt you. Say, God, if you're there, guide me, right? Do that, and then look into the comparative of religions that you have the access of, and then make the decision on your end, right? Forget about your parents believing what, my ancestors believing what, right? Is there a religion that you see that actually is better than, that will contribute to society, and that makes the most sense, right? Look into religion like the way you find jobs. And that way, it should be very easy, inshallah, God willing, by the will of Allah, by the mercy of Allah, that it should be easy for you to see the peak of the beauty of Islam, right? And we Muslims, we don't say that don't look into other religions, right? We know they're false. Me, myself, I finished the New Testament, subhanAllah, before I even converted to Islam. I looked into the comparative of different religion, and it was very clear. So I encourage people from Taiwan, people from China, people from all over the place, do the same thing, and then make your own decision.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And I love especially the encouragement to make this supplication. Yeah. I find whoever has asked God sincerely for guidance has found it, right?
Exactly.
So in your own time, in your own language, and like at your own convenience and comfort, just call upon God, you know, and say, if you exist, guide me to the truth, if there is a truth. Many of us have made this supplication, and we have seen the result. Yeah. So you should do that too. And also, as you said, like, keep a fair mentality and attitude. Don't have prejudices.
Keep your heart open.
Yeah, keep your heart open and look at it, you know, fairly and from the fundamental sources. Yeah. Because nowadays there are people who pretend like they know a lot about Islam. Yeah. But they actually don't, right? So if you want to know about Islam, know it from the sources.
I don't know that much about Islam. Just
no, I'm not talking about you.
No, but me, I want to make that disclaimer. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, like, they're actually non-Muslims pretending to be Muslims.
Oh, okay.
And that happens too. So the point is, if you want to know about Islam, right, know about what God said about Islam.
Yeah.
Right, the one who devised this religion for humanity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Learn about what He said about Islam. Yeah. And how do you know that? From the Quran, which we believe to be kalam Allah, the words of Allah. Read His words, right? No intermediary. Yeah. Just approach His speech to you directly. Yeah. Right? The Quran is like a message, a letter from Allah, from the Creator of the universe to you. Yeah. So go ahead and read the Quran by yourself. I find so many people who read the Quran by themselves without anyone helping them. Yeah. And although, of course, one reading, they don't understand everything, but just the things that they understand is enough to convince them that this is the words of God. So many examples. Yeah. And people from all walks of life. I've known professors, like I've known a teenager, 16-year-old, who read the Quran and said, this makes sense. Yeah. How can you disagree with that? Yeah. So yeah, be fair and go ahead and look into it. And inshallah, if you accept Islam, make dua for Jesse.
Make dua for everyone in the Ummah.
Muslims. Yeah. And maybe one day, you know, you'll be sharing your experience and inspire others too. So this is like a positive cycle. You know, we pass on the influence, and one day you will be influencing others as well. So with that beautiful advice, I think we will end the English part, and we're gonna record a Chinese part right after this. So if you've been watching, thank you for watching, and if you have benefited from our conversation, it is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever we have said that is mistaken or wrong is from our own shortcomings and from shaitan. We ask Allah for forgiveness, and we ask you to tolerate us. Ameen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep our hearts firm upon the religion of Islam. Ameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us beneficial knowledge and beautiful character and wisdom, and to give us goodness in this life and the next, and to protect us from hellfire. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to honor Islam and Muslims, and to protect Muslims all over the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who will enter paradise in peace. Allahumma ameen. So jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you so much, Jesse, and thank you for watching.
Assalamu alaikum
wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.